is for anyone who's like considering having kids and like they want to have kids, and there's a crazy switch that flips in your brain. But now, especially as an entrepreneur, like you are responsible for feeding this person.
I want to ask one thing, because I know a lot of parents listen, and we have a lot of people, obviously, at an age where direct response, I feel like, is a space where there's like a lot of like late 20s, early 30s, kind of like 25 to 40 type group where people are kind of getting into it. And that's obviously the age that a lot of people have children as well. And you mentioned obviously the chaos that comes with it. I get it. I feel it, not to your scale, obviously. Steve, you mentioned to me obviously that you had a daughter, and then your wife got pregnant and you got twin boys.
Yeah, twin boys. So three kids under 5 years old. I mean, this could be a public service announcement for anyone who's considering having multiple kids. We could do that, but no. What's actually interesting is today's like the final day of a stomach bug that I had. I caught from my daughter. It's like nonstop. Like it's nonstop. And by the way, this stuff like lights me up, so I'm happy to do it even when I'm not feeling amazing. But I mean, well, what do you want to talk about? There's a plethora of stuff.
Let me ask you this. So like one experience that I've had is I feel like myself, since I had my son, I feel like I am much more productive than I used to be in a shorter amount of time. Like the amount of work that I can do in 4 hours would take me 8 hours before I had my son.
Because you have to.
You have to. You're like, he's home at 3:30. I gotta go. So what are a couple of things that you find have changed, let's say for the positive or maybe the negative? Like,
let's do both. Let's do both. Okay, so I'm going to start with before I had 3 kids. So when Milano was born, there was a crazy search. So this is for anyone who's like considering having kids and like they want to have kids and like it's about to happen. Like, there's a crazy switch that flips in your brain that like, I don't know what it is, but now, especially as an entrepreneur, like you are responsible for feeding this person. Like you're like, sure, maybe for your spouse or your partner, like there is that too, because it's your family. Yes. But this is your offspring. Like this is someone who they're going to depend on you completely. And so it's a crazy switch that like I had a surge of creativity for a long, long time after that. Now, sleep deprivation kicked in. That killed my inner perfectionist, was a good thing. At first I was like I didn't really like that the sleep deprivation was there, but also being a touring musician, you kind of sleep in different places and there's different schedules. Also traveling all over the place. So it didn't bother me that much, but I loved the creativity surge. I loved that the inner perfectionist was killed. Then you level off and the kids start sleeping, like you start sleep training and all that. And then you get your energy back and you start piecing things together. I get my office and all that. And like things are good and looking up, right? And whatever I thought was stressful before, oh man, looking back on that, I'm just like, oh my God, what a lightweight. Oh my God. I can't believe I used to think that was stressful. But I always fight. Like my business is really important to me because that's also like my other kid, right? And also I know that that's going to feed my family. So I take it really seriously. So I always, I try to protect and have boundaries. Very important to have boundaries. But definitely what you said about even with one kid, that you can't just do whatever you want anymore. So that's a level of responsibility and purpose, which is great. That definitely helps to like reel it in a bit. But also then there's Parkinson's law that like I only have 4 hours to do this thing. So it has to get done. So that's good. You turn off the inner perfectionist. There's a lot of stuff that really is at play to be successful there. And when you have a kid, that's way different than not having a kid. Now, we go and to the ultrasound and the technician says, whoa, okay, well, we have 2 here. And congratulations, you're having twins. And my wife's just bawling her eyes out, not happy. Like she's just like, oh my God, like everything's going to be so crazy now. And I'm like, oh, okay, no, don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. Like so like delusions of grandeur, like just, oh, everything's going to be great. I'm going to take care of this. And oh my God, we got our asses kicked. Because then 1 month later, COVID hits and we just seriously, we got our asses handed to us. Like my mother-in-law lived with us. We were 3 adults in the house and 3 kids. But then my mother-in-law moved out, I think it was a year and a half afterwards. That was the plan anyway. But when we were outnumbered then by the kids and they started growing in power and noise and messiness and wasting money, it's like a never ending faucet of money just being drained at all times. I have like a million different examples for it, but it's an interesting thing, right? Because now, we don't have to have like disclaimer, oh, I love my kids, but whatever. Like parenting is very hard.
Everybody loves their kids. Yeah. And I hate when people, you love your kids,
like,
you don't
I love my
kids,
it, but you don't even have to say like, it's like, okay, everyone knows that part. Parenting, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, I'm just going to flat out say, I'm not a huge fan of parenting because like, I guess whether I have just so many things I want to do, like it's just a loss of control, right? What it does show you is it's like an extreme example of understanding yourself, which is a huge like core value of mine, is like self-awareness, understanding yourself, getting into like the flaws, the weaknesses and the strengths, and starting to shape yourself in this new role. And it's like Parkinson's law to nth degree. Like my motto last year was crank while you can, because it's like, I didn't know when I was going to be in my office. Like parenting with multiple kids is much different than parenting one kid, because parenting multiple kids, the amount of, excuse my French, but fuckery that can happen. This is what I want to do this week, turns into my whole week shot. Or, okay, today I've got this meeting or that meeting, that thing. And it's like, oh, fuck, I got to call all these people and cancel. And it's like, that happens more often than not. And so what that ends up forcing you to do, whereas with one kid, I could see this happening. Yes. And this did have to happen, but with multiple kids for sure, is you really have to be on top of your systems. You really have to be on top of, you have to have people working with you, like working for you. It's just, you need to, it's not about how, it's about who, because you're taken out of the equation where you need to be like, just distilled down to your core roles and like your strengths, because it's going to take a lot out of you. And it's basically, it's going to, like, you have to rely on the best principles possible, focused periods of time. Definitely one thing, and I'm writing a book about this actually right now for entrepreneurs about productivity, but it's like one of the main things is understanding yourself and understanding how much sleep you can actually get away with, not screwing around with that. If you have to nap in the middle of the day, like a 20-minute power nap, having focused blocks of time, making sure that what you're doing is high impact work, not doing anything else that's not, hiring that out. Like it's a Rubik's Cube basically around every corner. And yeah, man, like it's,
I feel like, although obviously there's a lot of stress and stuff like that, just in general, what you said is more net positive than net negative.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, for sure. No, 100%.
Productivity's up. You're learning how to delegate, which is a problem for a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of people, like even myself included, I only started hiring people like 3-4 years after I started business. I'm like, well, no, they're not going to know how to do that and not going to know how to do that. And I don't like how they answer that. And then it became a must. You know what I mean? Like I need somebody there. I have, family and all this, and, people who are solopreneurs. And I don't like to be like, you'll see when you have, I'm not that person, because I was told that I had my son later, and it was like, you'll see when you have kids. I'm like, don't worry about it. We're all in different stages.
Everyone's in different,
good.
For sure.
But it, obviously experiencing that, yes, it is different. You have to, like, you just have no choice. You have to adapt, and you have to be more productive, I
think for sure. And I think like, so the core, the nature of an entrepreneur, I feel, is someone that is a little bit of like a rebel, that they don't like being told what to do. Right. And so I think where the rub is, because again, like it's net positive, of course, like, I'm not going to like bounce on a plane to Costa Rica, even though it's tempting. Oh my God, it's tempting. Like, of course, it's just a stressful time in your life where it's more stress than you're used to. Yes. And so I think the rub is that at our core, we're rebellious. We don't like being told what to do. And you're basically put in a situation where you're not in control for the first time, because now, especially when the kids start talking back, and believe me, oh my God, it's crazy how like when you have multiple ones, it's like just like a committee of just ignoring you and taking you for granted, disrespect.
I want to come over. I want to see this. No, like all the kids I'm actually going to have like I'm going to have like an $8 per month subscription to just a live feed of my house at all times. It's going to be, I'm going to partner up with birth control companies and like condom companies. And just like, for like, are you sure you want to have kids? No, but the thing is though, it is net positive, because it's stressful for sure, but the reason why I think it's so stressful is because that rub, we're being forced to become something that it will end up being better 100%. I mean, it will probably crush some people for sure. I mean, like whatever, not everyone's going to make it, but it's that for the people who do survive that, like if surviving, and for me, that's always been like a weird thing for me, is I know that if I could turn this sour into sweet, like if I can actually overcome this, the sweet is going to taste so much sweeter after the sour. And also, so the victory is going to be great. I'm really competitive. Like the victory is going to be great, but then also my true nature, like I said, from this to this, I just want to help people. So right now I feel what keeps me sane is being kind of a guinea pig in my own experiment, and like really being like leaning into it, getting, just understanding it all. Because then I also know that I'm going to write it. I'm going to document it inside in a book, with the best strategies that I compile along the way to then help someone else who's in the same situation and doesn't have the answer. Hope you found today's session valuable. If you have any questions for me or just want to connect, please feel free to visit my website, mariasparagis.com. That's MariaSparagis.com. I'd love to hear what you're working on, so drop me a line on any hot button issues your business is experiencing. And remember, don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once.